Okay, so what is starvation exactly? It's because of glucose exhaustion. Very nice, okay. Damn it, I'm trying to... There you go. So, starvation, in an essence, has something to do with, we said glucose, okay? Glucose starvation, or the lack of glucose. Now, what are we using glucose for? Glucose is going to be a source of energy, chemical energy, right? In physics, we talk about potential energy, we talk about chemical potential energy. Well, glucose is that molecule that contains a lot of energy and that we can use and we break down to create molecules that can transport that energy to different parts of the body, right? Now, usually what we're going to do is we're going to get glucose from consuming it. Okay, we are heterotrophic, meaning that we cannot create our own food. We cannot create our own glucose like autotrophs can during photosynthesis. We have to consume. We have to catabolize food and gain the nutrients, the glucose and the amino acids and the fibers and the nutrients and the minerals from an external source, and we consume it. We put it in our mouth holes, our digestive teeth holes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look. As I said earlier, if you wake up in the morning and you're feeling hungry, that is kind of a form of starvation. It's your body going, listen buddy, it's been a while. We haven't eaten anything. We haven't consumed anything. Our energy levels are a little low. And when I talk about our energy levels, how your body measures the energy levels is by how much glucose there is in your blood. Okay? Because your blood is kind of like the highway, right? If you wanna look at it as, let's say, the amount of oil in a country, petrol, right? Diesel. We're going to look at, okay, well, how many trucks are driving around with oil, with petrol, okay, on the roads at a moment in time, right? If a country doesn't have many of these trucks driving around, it means that not much is being used, or there's not much available. You see that? We also have to consider that there might be big oil refineries, there might be big storage facilities for this fuel, right? And we can look at those as well and go, okay, are those either empty or are they extremely full? You see that? Your body's very intelligent. Your body knows exactly when it should be storing, when it shouldn't be storing, when it should be using instead. You see, so going back to the petrol and oil refineries, what it looks at is how much glucose there is in your body. Okay, so starting out when it comes to starvation. Okay, so what are we looking at today? As I said earlier, starvation can mean between 6 to 12 hours. Okay, so from 6, let me write it a bit further here. So from 6 to 12 hours. Okay, so you've eaten your dinner. You're quite full. You go to bed because you're blessed to be able to have a full stomach now. Okay, your glucose levels are going to skyrocket. They're going to increase. Okay, because as that food gets broken down, you're going to have a lot more carbohydrates, supposedly if you ate some, right? And nutrients in your stomach. It gets broken down by digestion, absorbed into your bloodstream. Okay, so your glucose levels are going to increase. Hello Zainab, how you doing? I see you there. Okay, so what's going to happen is your insulin levels are going to increase. Okay, now we're going to call this glycolysis. Okay, so not quite glycolysis yet, but what's first going to happen is glycolysis. Okay, so 6 to 12 hours now. You have eaten your food. Insulin has increased. Okay, and what that insulin is doing is going, okay, there's a bit too many trucks on the road, there's a bit too much glucose in our bloodstream. We don't want to be hyperglycemic and have diabetes, so here's some insulin. What that insulin is going to do is going to convert glucose into glycogen. That glycogen is going to be stored inside your liver and inside of your muscles. Okay, so now after this, it's been 6, let's say 8 hours that you're meant to be sleeping. Okay, maybe even 12 hours, because like me, I only eat breakfast at like 11. Okay, I go to sleep at maybe 10 the last day, so it's been 12 hours that I haven't eaten any food. So why am I not going into, starvation and I'm dying because I don't have food, right? It's because of these glycogen stores. Okay, so 6 to 12 hours, what's going to happen is your blood glucose has dropped. Okay. So again, we're talking a lot here about glucose in your blood. Okay, so blood glucose has decreased. Okay, it's decreased now because it's either being used by muscles while you're sleeping, yes, while you're sleeping, like your heart, your brain, your organs, right? Or it has been converted to glycogen. Okay, so the fact that you're able to wake up in the morning is because glycogen is going to decrease a bit, and it's going to, so blood glucose is decreased. Okay, now what's going to happen is it's going to use glycogen stores. These stores are going to either be in the liver or in the muscles. Okay. And what does it use to convert that stored glycogen into glucose? Because remember, your cells use glucose. Okay, that's what they use, that's what they convert. And we'll get a bit into that with glycolysis. But it's going to convert that glycogen into glucose. Okay? And that's going to be using the enzyme, or more like a hormone, glucagon. Okay. So glucagon levels are going to be increased. So glucagon levels increase. Okay. So 6 to 12 hours, your glucagon levels have increased, and glycogen is being converted to glucose. And that's why you're able to get out of bed without having had any food. Okay. That's great, that's cool. Our body has this way of sort of pushing through hard times to just keep us alive and to keep us surviving so that we are able to find the next meal. You see that? Blood glucose is decreased, it has secreted glucagon to increase those blood glucose levels, because your muscles, your brain, they need this glucose. So glycogen is going to be converted into glucose. Those glycogen stores are in your liver and your muscle. So your body's like, cool, I'll wake you up so that you can go get food. Now, what's usually going to happen, and I'll cover this quickly, is that we're going to have something called glycolysis. Now what glycolysis is going to be where glucose, and I'm going to be very simplistic here, 2 ATP I believe, I think it's 2 NADH, NAD plus, yes, it's just 2 NAD plus, okay, is going to be converted into, I think it's 2 or 4, no, 2 pyruvate plus 4 ATP plus 2 NADH. Okay. So this is glycolysis. This is what usually happens when you have this glucose intake, okay, or just a conversion of glucose to create ATP and pyruvate. Pyruvate then goes into a whole other cycle to be converted into acetyl-CoA, and that acetyl-CoA can be converted into more ATP. Now this is that molecule I was talking about earlier with the chemical potential energy, is ATP. Okay. So within the cell, it's going to create this ATP to be used in that cell. Okay. Your brain is going to be doing this in all of its cells. Great. So that's glycolysis. This is what usually happens. This is how we get, or this is what we're going to use that glucose in our blood for, usually. Okay. But again, we fasted. We don't wake up in the middle of the night to go eat. Most of us, maybe some of us do. But the point is, it's been 12 hours now. We haven't eaten. Our body needs to wake us up so that we can go find some food. That's what it does, by converting those glycogen stores into glucose. Great. Now, it has gone on for a bit longer. We haven't eaten today. Maybe we were busy. But we were still using our body. Right? We're still moving around. We're still able to look around. We're still able to think, all because of those glycogen stores, which is great. It's an amazing system we've got here that allows us to do so much work without really fueling it. Because it's smart. It has all these stores. Okay. So 6 to 12 hours later. Okay. Now, it's been 12 to 24 hours. Okay. Our glycogen stores are getting depleted. Okay, are depleted. So the glycogen stores are low, okay, and our body's going to start going, okay, cool, we planned for this. So glycogen levels are down. We don't have much glucose in our blood. Our stores of glycogen are pretty low in the liver and in your muscles. Okay, so this is when it's going to be the start. Well, I'm going to just put it here, start of. I'll write it in red actually, and this is what I think you're saying and what you're referring to. Glyconeogenesis. Okay. So let's break down these words quickly. Glycolysis, okay, is talking about glucose, and lysis means to break down. Okay, breaking down of glucose, glycolysis. Now, glyconeogenesis. Glyco, again, luckily we know, means glucose. Neo means new. Genesis means creation. Okay, so glycolysis is the breaking down of glucose. Glyconeogenesis is the creation of new glucose from things that weren't glucose before. Okay, a bit strange, and you might be going, what are you talking about? So there are different things that your body is able to convert into glucose. So it wasn't glucose before, okay, but your body can turn it into glucose. And it's not a breakdown reaction either. That's what's important here. You see, carbohydrates can be broken down into glucoses and your sucroses, okay? But gluconeogenesis is the build-up, the creation of a glucose molecule. It wasn't broken down from something that had a bunch of glucose molecules. Okay, and the three different things that it can come from, and I can actually put here, creation from alternate sources. Okay, and those three sources that we're going to be talking about is lactase. It's lactase. Is it lactase? No, lactate. Yeah, sorry. Ase is your enzymes. Okay, so it's lactate. It's going to be your glycerol, and it's going to be your amino acids. Okay. Okay. So this lactate. Okay. Damn, I wish I had more space. I have done this in quite a silly way, I must say. Okay. So this lactate here is coming from lactic acid. Okay. Lactic acid is obviously coming from your anaerobic respiration. So remember what I said, your body is still able to give you the energy it requires to find that food, to get energy. Okay. And sometimes it can be that, okay, now you need to wake up, you need to go hunt. So you're going to be running. And there might be a point where you're not getting enough oxygen. You also don't have much glycogen left in your muscles and in your liver, but your body's like, it's okay, just go, I'll supply it, I'll make a plan. And it does. It converts that lactic acid into lactate, okay? And then that lactate can be used in glyconeogenesis to create glucose that you will need to chase down that animal, to digest the food after chasing down that animal, to cook it, okay? So lactate is going to come from that anaerobic respiration of lactic acid, okay? Glycerol. Glycerol is going to come from the breakdown of lipids. Okay, so we'll get to there now, but I just wanted to be clear that during this 12 to 24 hours, glycogen stores are still going to sort of be there, and there's going to be some gluconeogenesis. Now, gluconeogenesis or is it glyco or gluconeogenesis? That's gluco, sorry. Gluco. Okay, so this gluconeogenesis, it's going to be throughout your starvation period. Okay, it's going to start from 12 to 24 hours, and it will carry on going, but the severity and the sources that it finds the amino acids are going to get a bit more intense. Hello, Lila. They're going to be a bit more intense as the starvation period increases. Okay, so it starts out with lactate. Okay, and it's just using what it's got in the bloodstream, and that's all fine. Okay, but now, from 24 to 48 hours, the next part here. Okay, and I just want to say, from here, a lot of my Arabics will know that during fast, during Ramadan, what are some of the symptoms that you get? Answer me here in the comment section. 24 to 48 hours now, your glycogen levels are spent completely. What's going to trigger these stages now, okay, is going to be a decrease, so we can say here the triggers, and this is how your body knows that it needs to switch from using just the glycogen in your body, okay, in the stores, or the lactate, to actually switching into using your fat now. So we know fat, other than to use as cushioning, a lot of hormones are going to require fat, it's also going to be a store of energy. We know this, right? Some people do some crazy diets where they'll fast or they'll stop eating to lose fat because society tells us that it is bad to be fat and you have to be skinny and thin, okay? But your body has a natural way, okay? Biochemistry is so complicated. I know, biochemistry is rough, and this gets intense with biochem, especially the breakdown of fats and lipids that we're going to talk about now. Okay, but anyway, your body is natural. If you're looking at the natural process of your body, theoretically, we should be active enough and we should have a diet that allows us to keep a healthy amount of fat on our bodies. We need fat, okay? You do. If you don't have any fat, you're going to struggle, okay? Because what's going to trigger this, okay, this conversion into breaking down your fat, okay, is going to be low blood glucose. So low blood glucose, okay, high levels of glucagon. So this is your body just pumping out glucagon, going, guys, do we have any glycogen left somewhere in us? And your body goes, I don't know what to tell you, bro, we don't. But there's high levels of that glucagon in your blood. Okay, welcome to the club. Okay, there's going to be low levels of liver glycogen, and all of these are usually accompanied by an increase in stress hormones. Okay, you got to think of all of this as a little caveman, because that's what we still are, right? We're still cavemen in our form. And little caveman, after 2 days of not eating anything, is going to be sitting there going, oh, I am stressed, I need food, I'm getting hungry, and it's going to increase cortisol. Okay, so the stress hormone that we're going to be looking at is cortisol. So these are the sort of triggers, the things that have to be in place for your body to start switching into, I'm going to write it here, ketosis. Now, a lot of people, you might have heard ketosis on social media and called the ketone diets and all of those. Okay, here we go, wild diets out there. One of them is the ketone diet. Okay, and this is what it aims to get to, is the stage of ketosis. So what you're doing is you're basically starving your glycogen stores. Okay, you're cutting them out completely. Your liver is going to have a very low amount of glycogen or no glycogen in it. There's going to be some stress hormones that are going to be released, like cortisol. And your body's going to go, okay, we are in serious trouble now. We haven't eaten anything in about 2 days. I'm going to give you a boost. I'm going to give you a sort of uplifter, okay? And it's around this point that you actually stop feeling hungry. You won't feel this hungry anymore, okay? Around these stages here, you're going to feel a bit hungry. Your body needs a booster. And it's going to go, okay, you can think of it as like an American in those American movies where they go into like the big room, all the generals are around, okay, and the body goes, okay, listen, we need to make a plan now. It cuts out this part of your brain that's thinking that you're hungry, okay, and it focuses instead on heightening your senses, and you get a boost of energy. And this is the stage that a lot of people crave when they do fasting, right? When they do long periods of fasting, they're craving this ketosis phase because this is when they get heightened senses and they can think very clearly and they get a lot of energy even though they haven't been eating. It's because your brain is turning into using ketones instead of glucose as a main source. It still uses a bit of glucose, and this is what we're going to be looking at. So what is ketosis exactly? Ketosis is going to be the breakdown of fat molecules, or fat cells rather, okay? And what that's going to do, fats are lipids, we call them as well lipids, okay? And what this is going to break it down into is going to be a glycerol molecule and 3 fatty acids. Okay, now that glycerol molecule, we said earlier, is going to go into gluconeogenesis. Okay, but there are 3 fatty acids, and these fatty acids are going to be broken down during ketosis. Okay, so this increase now in fatty acids within the bloodstream is also going to be what triggers this ketosis. Okay, and what's going to happen is these ketones are going to turn into acetyl-CoA. Okay, acetyl-CoA. Okay. Acetyl-CoA is a molecule that is going to be used throughout another process called TCA. And that stands for tricarboxylic something. Most of you, for my YouTube video, it's going to be here. Okay, but TCA is going to convert this acetyl-CoA into ATP, basically. Okay, the whole point. It's a big process, but we're going to generate ATP from this acetyl-CoA. You see that? It's also going to, as I said, you see, we're getting these. I should rather say that it first goes into ketones, and those ketones are going to turn into acetyl-CoA. Okay, and that's going to give us the ATP that we require. Okay. Now, what usually happens is that where is it now? I've got a whole diagram here that I want to draw. That's why their mouth breathing smells like acetone. Yes, very good. Fuck man. I'm so glad you're on this line. That's brilliant. An example of a ketone is acetone. Okay, acetone has been said to have this fruity smell. You see that? And this is why people that are usually in this ketosis phase are going to have a fruity breath. And you might think, I'd love my breath to smell fruity. It doesn't really smell like fruit. It smells like acetone. Okay, so it's a bit of a weird anomaly that happens. But exactly this. Those fatty acids become ketones. Ketones like acetone, okay? That's going to then become acetyl-CoA. That acetyl-CoA can become ATP, which your body can use. So it's this switch to ketosis that is going to lead to heightened awareness. Okay. A lack of hunger. So you're not going to feel hungry, but you're going to be constantly thinking of food, okay? Because your body's going, okay, I'm going to get you through this tough time, but you better go find some food. Food thoughts, okay? And also guys, this whole process, extremely uncomfortable, not fun. You do still feel a bit weak, okay? You feel weak, and you tire quickly, okay? And this is 24 to 48 hours. Now guys, as we go through this, especially after the 2-day, 48 hour mark, you must realize that this is going to be different for different people, okay? If you are male compared to if you're female, your age is definitely going to be a huge factor when it comes to this timeline specifically, okay? After this now, 2 to 3 days, okay, your body is going into full ketosis. We call it full hepatic ketogenesis. Ketogenesis. This is happening in your liver. But this pyruvate under normal conditions is also going to then turn into acetyl-CoA. Okay. But you see how the one was from glucose, from food, from carbohydrates. Ketogenesis is getting this acetyl-CoA, but not from glucose directly. You see that? It is from fatty acids instead, and that's what makes ketogenesis different to glycolysis. Okay, cool. So 2 to 3 days, full hepatic ketogenesis. Your body's mainly running on ketones now. A little bit of glucose from your glycerol, okay, going into the gluconeogenesis, but mainly it's your fats that are going to start burning. Okay. Are you happy to marry me? Yes, people, I keep on telling you, if you want to get married to me, you got to follow me on YouTube, follow me on TikTok, and then you automatically become my wife. Yeah. That's for guys as well. You too can become my wife. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Safa, I'm sure you're interested because we're talking about starvation here. So people, last time that you heard about starvation, understand how quickly it can happen, as well as what it is that's happening exactly. Okay. So, 2 to 3 days of not eating anything. Your body has dipped into its fat storages. A lot of the time it can be fat around your waist, fat in your arms, fat in your backside, your bum. your legs, different people store fats in different places. Okay, but the whole point of it is for times like this, times when your body just doesn't have enough glucose to support itself, so it changes to ketones instead of using glucose. Okay, but 2 to 3 days, yeah, full hepatic ketogenesis. Okay, 3 to 7 days, it's going to be, yeah, your brain's going to totally switch now to ketones. Okay. Full switch to ketones in brain. So your brain had a bit of glucose from the gluconeogenesis, but after 3 to 7 days, it's fully just surviving on the fat that it has on its body. Okay, now this is what I said as well earlier. These numbers can change depending on how much fat you previously had, depending on your age, depending on your gender. Okay, it's not dead set that this is going to happen in this timeline. Okay, I just want you to understand that. Okay. When it comes to fasting when you're stressed out, right, you got to realize that your body is stressed. It's going to increase its levels of cortisol. It's in levels of stress hormones. Okay, this could lead to you having a heightened sense of awareness, being able to concentrate more, but you got to understand it's also putting stress on your body. Okay, so I guess you could do it if it works for you. You just have to make sure that you are able to give yourself enough nutrition afterwards. Also, it takes a while to get to this point of ketosis. Okay, so you're going to have to plan a fast before your studies. Otherwise, you're just going to constantly be hungry during your studies, and that will probably just divert your attention from your actual studies. You see that? So, yeah, I'm just going to tell you what happens, why it happens, and you can come up with your own ideas of this. Okay, so 3 to 7 days, your body is on full fat-burning, ketone-using meds. Okay, in the brain specifically. Because remember, this is all to just keep your brain alive. Because if your brain stays alive, then there's a chance that you're going to be able to find some food. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's going to improve your mental clarity. You're only going to be thinking about food, however. This is where, yeah. Okay, yeah, we covered all of that really. Heightened sense of awareness. Ketosis, complete ketosis, again, is mainly also around this point here. Okay, great. Now, what happens when your fat disappears? And this is where we start going into the humanitarian crises that we see on the news. Okay, it's that, what does your body do when it has no more glycogen in your muscles and in your liver? It has no more fat to turn into ketones. Okay, what's going to happen? Okay, so when the fat reserves are depleted, what's going to happen? We're going to go into full, and this is actually called something different. It's called glucogenic amino acids. Regina, can you help me out quickly? What was it called exactly? See, it's basically now going to still be gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis. And remember, gluconeogenesis has been carrying on throughout the stage of ketosis because we're still going to have those glycerols, right? But now, without the fats, the lipids to break down, it's going to go into full gluconeogenesis. Specifically, muscle catabolism. Okay. Now, this is where, throughout this whole process, it's been a torturous experience. It's been uncomfortable. It's been painful. Your body is screaming at you to eat something, to eat some food, to get that glucose back up. But it comes to this point where your fat reserves are depleted, but your body's still going. Your brain needs glucose. Where are we going to get it from? It's going to start breaking down your muscles. Okay. And this is when it can start getting extremely dangerous as well for the person. Fatal. And this is when we have long-term side effects of starvation. Okay. And it can happen, again, guys, within a week of not eating anything. Okay. So what's going to happen here is it's going to start with the breakdown of skeletal muscle. Okay. So specifically, it starts with skeletal muscle. And that skeletal muscle is going to be turned into amino acids. Okay. Now there's going to be two types of amino acids. We're going to get some amino acids that get turned into ketones. We get other amino acids that are going to be turned into glucose. Okay. We call it glucogenic and ketogenic. Okay. So we get glucogenic amino acids and ketogenic amino acids. Okay. Glucose, ketones. Okay. Now what's going to happen is in your liver, these amino acids are going to, I'm going to say in the liver, they're going to lose the amino group, which I think is NH3 on the end of that amino acid. Okay, and what this amino group is also going to do is mean that there is an increase in urea in your blood. Okay, so starvation can also put a toll on your kidneys as they need to filter out more urea now as the proteins are being broken down. Okay, skeletal protein catabolism in ketogenic states. Is that? Yes. So remember, it's only going to convert. It's only going to turn to skeletal muscle once your fats are gone. Okay, so once you have no more fat on your body to break down into the fatty acids and glycerol, it'll turn to your muscles. Okay. What I wanted to remember is what is this called? The specific breakdown of amino acids into glucose. It's part of gluconeogenesis, but I feel like it has a specific subsection to the thing. Okay. So these amino acids are going to turn into either glucose or ketones. And those glucose and ketones are going to then be converted into your pyruvate. Okay. And as we saw here, pyruvate can then be turned into acetyl-CoA, and then let me actually put an arrow here. Okay. So these will then turn into pyruvate, which will then turn into acetyl-CoA, and it will give you the energy that you require. Okay. So what is this breakdown of muscle like exactly? Okay. So what it's specifically going to be is the now the issue is, so this is when your body's going to start really showing signs of starvation. You're not going to look so trimmed and cut and like just generally healthy-ish. You're going to start losing muscle mass. You're going to start looking skinnier. Okay. And why that happens is because it's literally breaking down the myosin and actin. Okay. Actin and myosin are the two different parts of your muscles that are going to interact with one another to help the muscle move, to contract, to relax. Okay. It's actin and myosin. Those are made up of amino acids, and they're going to be broken down, so the muscle gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's also important to understand that your organs are muscles majority of the time. Okay. Your digestive organs are going to be muscles. They're going to start getting broken down after your skeletal muscles are withered away. Okay. And this is what kills you from starvation. It's not so much that your brain, and it will actually, it can be that your brain goes into sort of hypoglycemia, where you have not enough sugar to just function as an entity in your head, and then you can have a seizure, but rather also organ failure. Your heart is a muscle, and your brain will start eating at your heart if it thinks that that's what you need to just hold on a bit longer to get some food. And that's how starvation kills you. It's a lot of the time going to be organ failure, heart attacks, kidney failure from the increased amount of urea when your proteins start to get broken down. Okay, and that's all for guys. It's a terrible experience. The thing is though, you're going to be so weak at this point, yeah? After 7 days, I'd say. You're going to be so weak, you're not going to be able to talk, you're not going to be able to walk, you're not going to be able to function. You see that? And this, people, is what we're talking about when we say starvation. Okay, it's going to convert into pyruvate. Oh yes, okay. After this, it's going to go to organ failure. And then, so after your skeletal muscles get broken down, it attacks your organs. I say attacks, you attack your organs. Another issue that comes with this is that, what is the word I use? Yeah. Immunosuppression. Okay. So a lot of the prerequisites for your white blood cells and your immune system is going to be proteins. It's going to be these amino acids. So you're going to have a very suppressed immune system when you are starved as well. And that can lead to infection, that can lead to sickness, and that can ultimately kill you as well. The issue here, guys, is, again, I said that this timeline can differ depending on your gender. It can differ based on how much fat you currently have, but also your age. Okay. So children, this timeline is going to be even more condensed. It's going to happen a lot quicker. And why is that? Children have a much higher metabolism. They are using a lot more glucose to grow and to develop. So their glycogen stores are going to be a lot lower. Their fat stores are going to be a lot lower. And so the onset of ketosis is going to be sooner. Okay, they're going to burn through that fat a lot quicker, and it's going to turn into this full gluconeogenesis a lot sooner. And the issue is, people, that even if they get fit, if you are in the stage of full gluconeogenesis and you get food, okay, for one, you can't even eat that food as much as you like. Okay, it's going to kill you if you do. It's called refeeding syndrome. Okay, refeeding syndrome is when someone is starved, completely starved, and they start eating food again. It can kill them. Okay, there's going to be such a huge influx of electrolytes and different, mainly it's just the electrolytes, that it can kill you. Okay, your body can go into shock. And so you have to feed them slowly, which is awful, right? And when it comes to children now, if a child is in gluconeogenesis and you give them food, okay, let's say you gave them flour from certain aid, okay, what's going to happen is their body's going to go, oh, that's great, thank you. It's going to convert it into glucose. The body is going to use up all of that glucose. And if they are starved again in the next, I would say, month, if they stop having food again, their body's going to go straight to gluconeogenesis again. They're going to go straight to breaking down muscle. Their body hasn't had a chance to build up any sort of fat storage for ketosis or ketogenesis. You see? So once you have burnt away all of that fat, it's very difficult to get it back. It takes a long time to get it back. And that's why starvation is such a tricky thing. And it should be a last ditch. There should be as much aid as possible before starvation sets in. Because once it does, very difficult to get out. Okay, there has to be a stable and sustained source of food for that individual to actually recover from starvation. Okay, that's it, guys. Okay, so when you hear the word starvation, realize that it's not as much as let me just give them food and they'll be okay. It's an intense process of recovery and it needs a lot of support afterwards. Okay, you mean proteolysis? Hope it's the right one. My comment won't be easy. I like proteolysis. Let's call it that. Okay, I'll double check it, but proteolysis. Okay, I like proteolysis, the breakdown of protein, right? Yeah. Okay, lovely people. So this has been starvation. We can go through it one more time. I just wanted to mention some of the issues that children can have as well is going to be developmental issues. Okay, if you're starved as a child, your body again, adapts to the situation that it grew up in. It's kind of like a plant, right? If you have a seedling that's growing, and you don't give it enough water, and you give it just enough water to survive, it's not going to grow as big, because it realizes water is a scarce resource. You see that? Alternatively, if you give a plant a lot of water when it's a seedling, it's going to grow. It's going to grow huge. It's going to grow big. But it's going to, as soon as you stop giving it that amount of water, it's going to die. It's going to wilt very quickly. Now, the human body is the same way, and it's amazing that it can do this. It adapts to its environment. If you starve a child during their developmental phases, their body goes, this is the world I live in. I'm going to make sure I don't grow too much. Because the bigger you are, the more energy you're going to take, right? So a lot of these kids have developmental issues. They won't grow very tall. They won't grow very big. Okay. They'll have a very slow metabolism for the rest of their lives as their body's trying to conserve, because that's what you brought them into this world experiencing, right? A lack of food, a lack of nutrition, and therefore a lack of security in knowing that the body can get through hard times. And yes, they'll be a lot more adapted to starvation in the future, but only because of their stunted growth and development.